The other big story in Oklahoma this week. A public forum on the impacts of the McGirt decision in Tulsa was disrupted by protesters who booed Governor Kevin Stitt and others as they took the podium to speak. Reporter Jason Doyle was there and has more on what turned out to be a wild event and the reaction to it from tribal leaders and those in favor of the landmark Supreme Court ruling.
Thank you, panelists, for being here. Thank you, and for all the victims, please come forward.
That's how Tuesday evening's McGirt Community Impact Forum ended for Governor Stitt, the prosecutors, and law enforcement officials on the panel. The speakers got the same treatment.
McGirt was a Supreme Court decision that was thrust on the state of Oklahoma, impacting both our tribal and state citizenry. There was no...
McGirt has so many issues with it.
Why are they even talking about it?
We've been talking about it.
Yelling at each other will not solve these problems. We've got to speak to one another. Thank you.
Even when Stitt acknowledged the attendance of a tribal leader, the crowd pushed back.
Welcome, welcome, Chief. I think he's in the audience. I want to welcome the Chief. Put the Chief up there. Put the Chief on the panel.
The lack of tribal representation on the forum panel brought out protesters before and during the presentation.
The federal government has the authority to prosecute the people. The tribes have the authority to prosecute, and we can handle our own.
My first and foremost priority is the safety of Oklahomans, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight.
The stated intent of the forum was to reach out to crime victims and their families, which could see their cases impacted by the McGirt decision. Prosecutors like District 27 DA Jack Thorp tried to explain the U.S. Supreme Court's decision has tied the hands of the state.
There is a class of cases where a non-member of a federally recognized tribe, if they commit a crime against a member of a federally recognized tribe, the only jurisdictional prosecution entity that can handle that case is the federal government, and those cases are not being prosecuted.
Knowing exactly which government body will handle a criminal case within reservation territory has led to some confusion for crime victims, including those who thought their case was closed.
A lot of people don't even know that their case that may be adjudicated 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, could be up for review under this Supreme Court ruling.
Kim Moyer is the state director of Marcy's Law for Oklahoma, an organization which supports victims' rights.
It's shocking to, be notified one day that, maybe the person who is serving time in prison for committing a crime against you now suddenly will have an opportunity for a new investigation and a new trial due to the ruling by the Supreme Court. And so it is very confusing.
The governor's special counsel for McGirt issues, Ryan Leonard, believes appeals working their way through the state and federal systems will decide how the McGirt decision should be applied going forward.
One case pending that would involve the retroactivity of McGirt. In other words, is McGirt retroactive? There are about 100,000 cases looking back over a period of 15 years, about 30,000 felonies.
Retroactivity means that a legal principle could be applied to the past. And that's a big deal in terms of criminal jurisdiction.
Attorney Mike McBride says the impact will become more drastic if McGirt is applied to past cases.
If you could apply the McGirt case to previous convictions, then that could really create a lot of movement at the prisons.
Recent cases also have expanded McGirt beyond the 5 tribes' reservations, as in the state of Oklahoma versus Brester.
It's a criminal case, and the court threw out the jurisdiction on the basis of McGirt and found that the Peoria tribe, one of the non-5 tribes, that their reservation was still intact under the 1867 treaty.
The forum was ended earlier than expected and demonstrates the disconnect between the governor and tribal leaders is real. Muskogee Chief David Hill issued a statement after the forum saying, in part, the McGirt decision has created so many opportunities for improved safety and security for all citizens of Oklahoma. We have continually sought collaboration with state and local officials to realize this new promise. But rather than work together, some politicians seem determined to return to the broken systems of the past and are willing to do anything to achieve their goals, even prey upon the pain of victims and their families.
It lacked the full community, except those who came in to voice their concerns about the gaps in the forum, in the panel. I mean, if we want to have a dialogue about McGirt, which we should, we need to do that in a very thoughtful way. That means including all voices.
Hoskins says the turmoil doesn't mean the tribes, the state, and federal governments aren't trying to accomplish the same thing.
The truth of the matter is, every serious leader in this state that's working on McGirt, and that includes every tribal leader, is concerned about the same thing, and that is making sure we have a blanket of protection across our jurisdiction, whether it's our reservation or whether it's the state.
The Cherokee Nation is investing into its own criminal justice system to handle the surge of cases.
So that's the reason we have over 1,200 cases transferred from the wrong jurisdiction, the state, to Cherokee Nation jurisdiction. So we're doing our job. We're making sure that we're protecting victims. We're putting more resources into victim services, doubling, for example, the staff that we have.
We'll take a closer look at how the Cherokees are accomplishing that next week. Jason Doyle, the Oklahoma News Report.